Good day everyone, I am Zanjakin P. Partosa, a second-year student taking a Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English, studying at Negros Oriental State University, Shatin Campus. So for today's video, we will be talking about the four theories which are first, the Jungian Archetypes, second, Ritualism, third, Structuralism, and fourth, Historical and Critical Criticism. So Carl Jung was a prominent psychologist who, while he accepted Freud's theory about the origin of myths, did not believe that it went far in explaining the striking similarities between the motifs found in ancient stories and those of his patients. It contains very general ideas, themes, or motifs which are passed along from one generation to another and are retained as part of our human inheritance. So a Jungian analysis of classical mythology would claim that the main gods and goddesses express archetypes that are common to human thinking everywhere. So Jungian archetypes has something to do with the collective unconscious, wherein it is about the common knowledge that we humans have. It is inherited from our ancestors, and it says that myths expresses wisdom that has been encoded to all humans. That is why there are similarities between myths from different nations all over the world because of this collective unconscious. In Jungian archetypes, story patterns were also encoded in our brains. As an example, the myth of Egyptian god Osiris, wherein the story pattern is death, mourning, seasonal rebirth every year. So the cycle of rebirth here is considered as the death archetype pattern. To discuss more about the archetypes, some great examples are the Olympian gods. For example, Zeus, which portrays patriarch or wise old man, Apollo, which portrays cups of manhood or independence, and Hermes, which portrays the trickster. So example of archetypal events are birth, death, separation from parents, marriage, and union of opposites. Example of archetypal figures are great mother, great father, devil, wise old man, god, trickster, and hero. And examples of archetypal motifs are apocalypse, creation, and etc. So according to Jung, mythical creatures are the projection of the unconscious. And actually, there are also three that are being highlighted by Jung, which are first the shadow, which means the hidden self. So there are also two, which is the anima and animus. So the anima is where men have the characteristics of women, just like being moody, intuitive, and second is the animus, wherein women have the qualities of men, just like being aggressive, risk taker, and loud. And lastly is the self, which it is a character that represents the total on timeless and unification of conscious and unconscious. So example is man being wise old man and woman being crone. Now let us proceed to ritualism. So according to this theory, all myths are invented to accompany and explain religious ritual. They describe the significant events which have resulted in a particular ceremony. So in classical Greece, for example, certain things were done at a temple, and people agreed that it would be impious not to do them. But if you had asked why they were done, you would probably have had several mutually exclusive explanations from different persons, and no one would have thought it a matter of the least religious importance which of these you chose to adopt. Moreover, the explanation given for a ritual would not have stirred strong feelings rather than formal declarations of beliefs, which creates the various explanations would have been stories or myths which would have simply described the circumstances under the rite first came to established by the command or by the direct example of God. So according to Malinowski, a myth is a codification of belief acted as a character for ritual justifying rites, ceremonies, and social and moral rules. Myths are religious narratives or stories that provide the religious basis for religious beliefs or practices. For example, the Hindu mythology commonly is about gods and goddesses became reincarnated into many different manifestations of three main supreme godheads, which are first Brahman, which means the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. And mythology is the backbone of Hindu religion. Its traditions and rituals holds immense symbolic meaning. Let us proceed to structuralism. So this theory is fairly recent development and is closely allied with the research of linguists. It attempts to see how a myth fits with other myths from the same culture or from another culture. It tries to figure out the relatedness of myths. It also says that the way we eat, dress, speak are patterned into codes, which has the characteristic of language. So, to understand the real meaning of myth, we must analyze it linguistically. But first, structuralism arose out of the linguistic theory, particularly the work of Ferdinand de Saussure. So, structuralist approach to myth. The common view is myth cannot be interpreted in isolation, but only has meaning with an entire cultural system or structure of myth. For example, the word gift. In English, it means present. In German, it means poison, and in Swedish, it means married. Therefore, there is no inherent meaning in an arbitrary sound of the word gift. Each community of language speakers agrees on the meaning of the word. In English, it has one meaning, and in another country, it has another meaning. Therefore, the meaning of the word needs to be understood in the context. So, structuralism also has something to do with binaries. It says that in myths, binaries exist. For example, good and bad, rich and poor. Now let us talk about historical critical criticism. Historical criticism is the historical approach to literary criticism. It involves looking beyond the literature at a broader historical and cultural events occurring during the time the piece was written. It is an understanding of the world the author has lived in. It consists the events, ideologies, culture, lifestyle, and etc., which allows us for a more comprehensive understanding of the work. So in order to understand the myth written, one must also study the background or state of the author during the production or the making, because sometimes myths depicts or reflects the state of the environment, especially about political issues or governance. So, facts of history are considered as basis in historical critical criticism. It includes the study of cultural, social, intellectual contexts that produce it, including the artist's struggle. So, one should study also the biography of the author. And one great example of this is Jose Rizal's El Filibusterismo. It is written due to Spaniards' colonization to the Philippines, and through knowing Rizal or doing research about Rizal and the Philippines he lived in during that time, you can understand the El Filibusterismo. So in it, you can see that there's maltreatment and all the things in it are part of our history.